Hi, I'm Alexander. I'm the founder of Carbon Counters. We're making carbon accounting easy for businesses. Oops, sorry. So I think everyone in this room working on these very fascinating companies and investing know that consumers generally in surveys all want to buy sustainable products, and many believe companies can do more. There are other indicators like the number of large cap companies reporting to CDP, I think increased twofold in the past 3 years. It's now 13,000. 25 other carbon accounting SaaS platforms have been founded since 2017, most of them in enterprise level tools, and regulation is being written and passed and implemented in the US and the EU now. Another way to think about this opportunity is that sustainable businesses can generally charge 30% premiums, and their market is growing at 7.3% CAGR versus 2.9 for conventional products. And so that translates into a 55% opportunity cost for brands that can't or don't know how to decarbonize and that can't convey it effectively to customers. So, and the reason why the problem exists for businesses is that most tools, including many of these SaaS tools that have been launched, they're too complex for many businesses to implement internally without a sustainability expert or director. And thus they require consultants to use. They require a lot of hand holding, and they're not really designed to do accounting, they're designed to do modeling. So that's sort of the challenge with doing accounting, but there's also a reporting challenge, which is that there is no uniform framework for product level disclosures in the world right now that's widely used. And that really makes it difficult for consumers to receive information from companies that are decarbonizing and to differentiate. And so our solution on the accounting side is to build a SaaS that's really easy for small businesses to use. So a simple UX UI. Carbon accounting is not a data problem. It's not a technology problem. It's not a formula problem. It really is a workflow issue for people to do the accounting work necessary to generate the results. And so we're all about building a simple solution for businesses to use. It's sort of like, this is a screenshot of some of the
Hey, Alex, I'm still on your cover slide. I don't know if it's just me.
Oh. I'm moving. If it has nobody seen the slides moving?
No.
I swore I thought I saw it moving, but now I see the cover slide as well again.
Yeah, it looks like maybe if you're using kind of a dual screen thing, we're seeing just the
that's totally my fault for not catching that.
Yeah, you're on that screen. There you go.
Okay, can you see it move now?
Yes.
There we go.
Great. So 78% of consumers want to change. Well, other indicators, it's a 55% opportunity to earn more income for brands that can differentiate in the market this decade, just through the next 7 years. And like I said, the problem is that the existing tools are too complex for businesses to actually adopt. And before regulation makes carbon accounting mandatory, there is no uniform framework for brands to disclose results to customers, which hurts their potential ROI return. So our solution is to build a super easy front-end UX UI for businesses to be able to do this without needing to hire consultants that probably charge 50 to 150 an hour. This is a sort of sneak peek at the UX UI of adding a product. I call our solution off-the-shelf SaaS because just about every single SaaS platform, competing SaaS platform you can see, they don't have a first 15 or 30 days free. They have contact us for demo. That's because they are not off-the-shelf solutions. So we're building the Quickbooks of carbon accounting for businesses to be able to use immediately. We have a patent pending utility patent for non-provisional utility patent for our carbon framework, our carbon statement, our reporting framework. It looks like a nutrition label for a reason, because that methodology works and that structure is somewhat familiar to most consumers. So we want to see this on every single product to catalyze consumer-driven demand loop of demanding more low carbon products, and so that companies that are decarbonizing can actually receive the bump in ROI that then triggers more companies to go towards decarbonizing. And so that plays into our go-to-market strategy. You know, we're going to direct market to sustainable brands selling sustainable products now, which accounts for about 10 to 15% of the CPG market, according to NYU Stern. We're going to use channel partners.
And time is up. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have traction, and it's me and my founder. He's got 25 years experience at Uplight. So I'll stop sharing, but I'd love to answer questions.
The founders is exactly where I'd want to go with the first question. What makes you two the people to do this, and why?
Well, so I've been passionate about this since ninth grade, and I have been doing carbon accounting for the past 10 years. Next to my professional experience in real estate finance, I was acquisition development, lease valuations. I managed a family office impact fund, started the low carbon fund for them to invest in public securities that were building, or at least investing more interesting, that were essentially decarbonizing. That's very difficult to prove, obviously, or to actually quantify. And so all of that experience means that I know financial accounting very well, and what businesses need to do, or that workflow. I lived in QuickBooks for 5 years. I worked in a Bloomberg terminal for 5. I used Morningstar. I used Interactive Brokers. So I sort of like know how to match software capabilities with needs. And then my co-founder, Ray, he's got 25 years experience architecting SaaS and as senior principal engineer at 3 startups, employs 725 in the first 2, and he worked for 9 years at Uplight, which is they collect data from, I think, or they work for 80 utility companies to basically deliver data to those utility companies' customers about including their carbon emissions. And so he can do anything literally, except design. So I have a design partner who's or a design consultant who does the design. And so between the two of us, I have the unique ability to do both financial accounting and carbon accounting, which brings me insights to the solution and insight into the problem. And then Ray, likewise, he's incredibly versatile, and he retrofitted his RV with solar panels. So he also knows the difference between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour, which is actually quite rare when it comes to coders. And so he really brings a lot of value.
How do you idiot proof this? So it's got to be super simple for it to take off.
Yeah, so we've worked with 10 paying clients. I've done 100 product carbon footprints with these clients, and so we have a lot of insight into what they know and don't know, which asks are difficult, which are easy, like emailing vendors, third-party manufacturers, or warehouse managers. So really, I've done about a year's worth of case study work for clients, paid work, writing down guides, notes for data requests, templates for data requests. And so I have a very good idea of like what they need in order to actually start collecting this data. So it's about giving people guides, and then it's about making the UX UI sort of as inflexible as possible, as static as possible, without making it sort of so static that it can't actually be used for different new technologies. Like there's sort of like a push and pull there. So, but we want to make the UX UI as sort of static and one directional, like add the materials, add the location of your suppliers, add the bill of materials for your packaging, add the waste handling methods, those are drop downs, and add the locations of your final sale. Like many of these data inputs are fairly straightforward, and then we handle the calculations and the emission factors back end. So it's literally about walking people through that, and we're trying to do that as much as possible online without needing people to actually do it, but giving them guides and having the UX UI be sort of straightforward for them to collect this information.
And Craig, you got some questions? I'll let you go.
Yeah, you kind of got cut off in the presentation when you were talking about traction. Can you give us a little bit more of the traction? Is the software product live, or is the traction sort of more, I think you were sort of talking about sort of some carbon footprinting and so is the product live and
No,
who's
it's going live
paying?
next month. The
Got
sort of MVP 1.0. It took me about 6 months to build the proprietary model that we're currently using that is like input driven in the sense that I don't have to rebuild the calculation model depending on what companies, like the different products that companies manufacture or produce, or the different ways that they distribute, or the different packaging levels. Like, it is literally drop down ready to handle any sort of product specs. And so that is the case. That's the model for what we're building online. And that model has been third party verified by independent consultants to be standard compliant, which is super important. Many companies are not automating standard compliance for businesses results, which means that reliability by customers is impacted. But we're currently putting it online.
And the this idea, which I find really interesting, of this sort of labeling, product labeling, the analogy to nutritional labeling. It seems like that's an important part of the sort of flywheel you described, right? Which is like getting the visibility in front of consumers so that they factor that into their choice. Can that work coming from a single company, right? Or for that to really happen, does there not need to be just sort of some industry standard for how to not only display it, but how to calculate it? And is that your goal? Is essentially to, open source that and create an industry standard? Or do you think you can own that as a software company?
I think that the reporting framework, we probably will like make open source or put it in a nonprofit to manage once we have enough businesses using it. But the solutions to perform carbon accounting, they can't be, that's always has to be private company driven. Like financial accounting, you have GAAP accounting rules and you have specific reporting requirements, but the accounting work is done by EY, KPMG, et cetera. So it's like, and that's how I see it.
Got it.
It would be beneficial for us if everybody used our framework, because it also ensures that products are cross comparable, which brands need to make a qualified marketing claim. So, yeah.
Makes sense. And I don't know exactly how to frame this in a question, but from my seat, getting sort of inbound investment opportunities, it seems like this is a very, very noisy space. There are a lot of companies doing a lot of different things, offering a lot of solutions, ranging from consulting services to people claiming sort of full automated software solutions. I know that it's a big market. It's not going to support the thousands of companies that I think are working on this. Sort of how do you ultimately, is it a product differentiation that is ultimately going to result in the win here? Is it sales and marketing? Like, is it capital? What sort of enables someone to kind of stand out above the crowd in a busy market that that a lot of people are interested in?
I think giving a company the ability to communicate a result to a customer effectively. And that's why I focus on product level, because I really think customers need to be able to respond to companies' disclosure or companies' efforts, either buying more products or paying more for them if a company's decarbonizing, or not, if in another case that they're not. So I think that that differentiates us versus most enterprise level tools. That's one differentiator. So you take like 50% of the market out of it, of comps out. We're never going to sell offsets. That's a conflict of interest. So offsets out of the table. We're not doing that. And then within that group of product level tools, we are going to get our software is always going to be third party verified by an independent organization. We're actually going to hire the Earth Institute at Columbia University to provide companies that level of that quality. I don't see that among competitors right now. And then I also don't see the reporting framework. And so that's really important to differentiate us, I think. And that's sort of why I patented it. And so that combination of giving businesses a tool that in the short term before regulation really makes it possible for them to advertise and market how they're different, it makes the tool much more valuable. And then when regulators do come and actually pass regulation, the first thing they're going to ask is like, well, who's standard compliant? Because we can't tell people, like, businesses need to use standard compliant tools. And so when regulation comes in, I see that as a catalyst for us. And so I'm confident that those factors, technical factors, and then the branding that would be associated will differentiate us versus competitors and result in much faster adoption for our solution versus competitors. And so that plays into our data network play, which is once we have a lot of product level assessments in our database, our tool only becomes more valuable for brands to be able to compare their products anonymously. So and to differentiate. So does that answer your question?
No, it does actually. Yeah, it was a great answer. Thank you.